Welcome. Thank you for being here today. We are talking about hmm, the law of causation, or AKA reversibility. This is current events, right? So I've been seeing a lot of topics about building the community, about um, sustaining the community, how to change things. I've been seeing a lot of topics about that. And some topics are very salacious, like how men do this or how women do that, or so on and so forth. So we're gonna look at that. I've been hearing a lot of things about poverty and the hood and the ghetto and so on and so forth. So I learned a new phrase. We're gonna unpack that. We're gonna unpack it um, to show you where the law is and how to apply it. I'm just gonna wait for a couple more moments to see who's all here, and then because the interaction is so important because it brings the questions in and the answers out. So I trust everybody's good. Yes. Um, I'll wait for a few moments. Where am I streaming this morning? Fanbase and YouTube. Afternoon delight. I just see you here. How you doing, sweetie?
I'm doing really well. I look forward to this.
Excellent. So our current event is this. Yesterday there was a room um, talking about how Black men have to build the community, how Black women are breaking the community, how single mothers are the demise of society. Listen, I have been hearing a lot of things. So let's look at the law of causation. Remember, every cause has an effect and every effect is cause, which means if you can use an effect to bring about a cause, you can use a cause to bring about an effect. Here's how it happens. If you were raised, I don't know, the ghetto, the hood, some third world, right? It has an effect on your mind because it shapes what you see around you. You see certain things. You might see more crime than normal. You might see more violence. You might see more, I don't know, but you just see things, right? So that shapes your young mind. Okay. And it shapes your mind so that you get up and you go out. Not everybody, but you get up and you go out and you recreate what you just left. Okay. Once you become of age. Now, the same way, you don't necessarily have control if your mother takes you to live somewhere, if your father takes you to live somewhere. You don't have control where you live, where you are as a child. But it does shape your mind so that you will either stay in that frame of mind. This is why poverty is so bad for mental health. Marjorie, yes, this is why poverty is really, 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 really vile for mental well-being. Because if you are raised in poverty, I know a lot of people think when you grew up in the Caribbean, in some third world countries, they think that that's impoverished somehow. When in actuality, we had access to fresh fruit, fresh food. You were close to your neighbors, so you learned a sense of community. Okay, you learned a sense of community. You learned that we all work together. This is what, because you would swap food with people. Some people would grow this, some people would grow that, and you would swap. Right? I'm telling you this because it shaped your perspective. Like, for instance, I didn't grow up having to pay rent. I didn't grow up having to pay a mortgage because my grandfather built his house with his hands. He didn't owe anybody for it. So there's that. But now, moving to this other side of the world, that's not yours inherently. You have to earn that by getting a mortgage. So now here is, you now have to qualify. You have to make enough money. Do you understand? You have to have good credit. You have to have all of these things, these qualifying things. So that shapes your perspective. So now if you hear all the time, oh, well, you can't afford this, you can't afford that, you got to pay rent, blah, 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 that does something to your mind. It makes you think about yourself. Oh, wow, I can't do this, I can't do that. So there's that one part. Here's where the poverty comes in. If you grew up in a place where you don't know where your next meal is going to come from, right? You can't rely on your caregivers because they're gone all the time. You don't know. That puts you in a mindset of fight or flight. So now you are thinking survival. You have to survive. See what it does to you? All that happened there was your environment shaped your outlook. But now that you're a grown up, what if, because remember, cause and effect, reversibility, if the environment can shape the mental outlook, then the mental outlook can shape the environment. What does that mean? It means that wherever you find yourself right now, there's the reverse that you can do. Of course you can. You can do the reverse. Like I just saw this topic pop up. Are Black men discriminated against? You see what I'm saying about the thing? We have these conversations over and over and over. Synovia, we have those conversations. And we're disparaging each other. What does that do to the mind of the listener? That's what I'm trying to get at for us. It does something to our minds when we continually hear how not good, how not good enough, how not valuable, how not. That does something to the mind. So now you say, well, I don't want to be around that. Okay, fine. Leave that environment. But the mind, because remember what shaped your environment in the first place, right? Give me a moment, y'all. Just give me a moment. My girl just popped out. Oh. Little bit. Okay. Let's we want to have to pick up some more. Come with mama. Come with me. Yes, come with me. Okay? Don't poop on your mama. No. Wings. That's a good girl. Come. Just don't poop on mama, okay? Don't poop on mama. Jeez. I just wanted you to just relax without me for a minute. Sorry, guys, I'm back now. I've got the belle of the ball. She just wants to know what's happening. So you'll hear her wings, okay? But what I'm saying to you is this. Your surroundings shaped your mindset. So now you can use your mindset to shape your surroundings. And it's not, I know that we think it is hard sometimes, but that's only because we don't know, right? It's only because we don't know. And so wherever it is that you've grown up, whatever that environment was in, it influenced the way you see the world. But here's the beauty of not being stuck in that mindset and how to actually change it. Like we hear, because like I say, some of these topics are really quite salacious. Synovia, honey, she's not a bird, she's a chicken. But I digress. We grow up and we hear things, right? We hear, oh, all men are this way, all women are that way. You don't want this type of woman, you don't want that type of woman. When you hear those things, they shape how you see people and how you treat people and who you choose. You understand? So now you're not actually making your own choice. You're making a choice based upon the environment that you grew up in and what you heard over time. That's how you are making decisions, right? So the way around that is to recognize that those thoughts aren't yours. You learned them from somewhere. And so in order to change your mindset, employ the law of cause and effect. Because remember, like Neville Goddard says, reversibility. If your environment and you can't get out of your environment, change your mindset. And your environment will have to change to suit your mindset. But what happens with us, we think that, oh no, like I'm stuck in this situation. I'm always going to be here. I don't know how to change. And we want to escape. The law does not teach us escapism. The law tells us we are already free. We have nothing to escape from. So if you are in a situation where, I'll use the other one, the relationship one, because that's the other topic we hear about all the time. Why do we make bad choices for our mate? It's not that we make bad or good choices. We make the choices based upon our perception. So if you find yourself making the same type of choice all the time, that means, well, you've got a perception. So how do you change your perception? You change your perception by first admitting that it is there, because you have to be honest with yourself. Admit that it's there. There's no shame in that. And then now what? Then the second part is, what do you want? Right? Wherever we are, this is why you can listen, you can move. What's that phrase? You can take the girl out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the girl. That's what I'm trying to tell you today. The hood is only the perception right now. Yes, it's where you are living. It may be where you have grown up. It may or may not, right? Because in Canada, we don't really have hoods per se. We just don't. We don't have places like that. But we do have places that are wealthier than others. So if you live in a place that is not where you want to be, what are you going to do about that? Look at how you are thinking on a daily basis. If you say, well, I really want to change my life, right? If you say you want to change your life, what do you want to change it to? Right? What do you want to change it to? So then you decide what you want to change it to. You can't contradict that now. You can't say, well, geez, it's too hard. I can't. How are you going to change if you keep contradicting the self? So remember, the space that you are in, if it is a problem, change your mindset, and the space that you are in has to change. An opportunity will present itself, and you will either have to move to somewhere better. Do you understand what I'm saying? But your mindset has to be focused on, hey, better. I deserve better. I am better. Right? That's the whole thing. Right? Are there any questions? Because I know there's Marjorie's here, Synovia is here, but you're the guys who've made yourselves known in the chat. Well, Marjorie, that's how we were raised in the Caribbean. You own your house and you own your land. Because you have to buy it from the plantation, right? So that's how you ended up owning it. But think about it, because my mom, she still lives in Barbados, but her house is on something called a tenantry, which means the plantation still owns that land and she has to pay rent on it every year. But slavery is done. So then you look now at the overall atmosphere of certain islands, you're going to see a particular mindset that is common. That's what I mean when I say it's the mindset. At the end of the day, if you don't like your surroundings, you have to change your mind. You have to change your mind. And if you don't like something, the only thing to change is the mind. How do you change your mind? By recognizing that you have a problem, something, and you don't have to go digging for the problem. You don't have to go digging for it because it's right in your face. It'll always show up for you. So if you say, I keep doing the same thing over and over, I keep dating the same kind of person, what is it about you? That's not a bad thing. What is it about you? What kind of attitude do you hold? right? What kind of attitude do you hold that's causing you to choose the same type of person? That's not on them. That's on you, right? Questions? Yes, Synovia, just like in Africa, you own your house and you own your land. Where are you trying to go to? I just don't want you to poop on your mama. Wait, just wait. I'll give you guys a moment to come up with your questions while I tame my wild girl here. Hey, sweetness. I know. And she likes it when I sing to her. You want to say hello to the world? Hey, Henrietta, you want to say hello? I'll wait for your questions. Because that's the part that we think is the hardest. Well, how do I change my mind? It is a conscious decision that you make. Yes, she is, Synovia, she is. Because she's got a splayed leg. See how the legs are? So she can't be with everybody else because they'll pick on her, right? So she's here so I can help her recover. And I don't know that we can, but I'm going to use the law every day. So she is a strong girl. Relax. You're just in my lap, sweet girl. But does that make sense? How we sometimes we fret and we think, well, I'm stuck or I can't make a change. But that is only the opinion that you hold because we've heard it so many times. We've heard how hard it is to change. That's what we've heard, right? Yeah, I know. Like we keep hearing how hard it is to do something. And then we run with that because we think that's our natural way of being. When in actuality, it is not. Right? It's not the natural way of doing things at all. So to change your mind, you've got, because think about it, you are already speaking to yourself. I mean, you say things like, oh man, I'm going to be here forever. Oh, there's no way out. I keep getting this dead end job. Do you hear what you are affirming to yourself? How are you ever going to get out of it when you keep affirming it? You keep affirming it. You keep saying it to yourself over and over and over. Well, I'll be single forever. Oh, my dad had this thing. He always says I'm miserable, that I'm cranky. He would always say that. He goes, oh, you're miserable like your grandmother. And I really had to learn how to let that part go because I like certain things in a certain way. And I had to realize he's just giving an opinion. He's giving an opinion. But am I miserable? I had to check myself because he's my dad. He knows me. Am I? Instead of taking that on and saying, oh my God, I'm so miserable. Who's going to want to be with me? Blah, blah, blah. That's what I'm trying to convey to you. We are always having these conversations with ourselves. We call it our inner critic. You see, that's what we call it all the time. But it's just you talking to yourself. So the same way that you can say something disparaging to yourself, well, you can say something nice to yourself. Oh, but that sounds weird, doesn't it? Oh my God, I'm so talented. Oh my God, I have a great sense of humor. And what do you begin to feel like? Oh, you feel like a charlatan. You feel like you're an imposter. But you don't feel like an imposter when you say, oh my God, I'm so dumb. Why is one of those things acceptable and the other makes you cringe? Why? Because one of them you've been saying for a lot longer than the other. That's why. Questions? Hey, Rich one, I see you. Welcome to the space. I like having these kinds of discussions, so that's why I open it and say, talk to me. Ask your questions about anything, and we're going to put it to the law. Marjorie says, it's all in the mind. I realize if we don't deal with an issue, that thing finds us in some way, shape, or form. But of course, because we tend to want to ignore something. You know, you sweep it under the rug. You pretend it's not there. You can pretend it is not there all you want. it will show you that it's there. That's why it will take on a shape or form somewhere else until you acknowledge what it is and change the cause to bring about a different effect. That's what we're doing. Does that make sense today? Yeah, does that make sense? Because I know sometimes that we can, how do you stay on a high frequency with all the chaos in the world? Because the world and what you see in the world is a collection of other people's projections. So if you don't take charge of what you project out into the world, right? Being deliberate to whatever things are good, true, honest, of good report. If you are not deliberately doing that, then where else is your mind? Being chaotic. So how do you stay on that frequency? How do you stay on that frequency? By knowing the law and knowing that you are creating some experience in the world. And so long as you are faithful to create good experiences, you're not the only one who benefits from a good experience. People around you benefit from a good experience also. Just like if somebody's got a particular attitude and they're putting chaos out into the world, that affects everybody else around them. Reversibility. Does that answer your question, Synovia? Because I know people talk about the law of vibration. The law of vibration is simply saying to us, things are moving. They cannot stop moving. They have to move. They're constantly moving to and fro. To and fro. So every time you get to the fro, you got to move to. So you're always moving, right? And how you are moving is dependent upon your perspective. If you're moving through the world and you're saying to yourself, oh, well, this is a good thing, this is adding to my life. If you're moving through the world like that, well, that's a good thing. It's helpful not just to you, but to the others around you. They just get to reap that benefit. But if you are moving through the world with the woe is me, oh, poor, poor, pitiful me, if you're moving through the world like that, well, that mood tells you what you're moving at. So I know that a lot of people use the word frequency, but in actuality, the law of vibration, everything is moving. And the way you move in the world is solely dependent upon your perspective of the world. And that perspective was shaped and molded by your life and what you've gone through. Does that make sense on how do you maintain a quote unquote high frequency? The high frequency is just the understanding that, hey, wait a minute, I'm a creator. I can be deliberate about what I want to create. That's how you stay on the high frequency, by being deliberate about what you create and what you're putting out into the world. Does that make sense? Hello, Lion Man. Welcome to the space. So what are we talking about today? Current events and where the law is and how our perception. What is your perception? What does that even mean, perception? The way you see things. Well, how do you see things? The way you were taught to see them. So if you're told, stranger danger, don't talk to strangers, don't get in anybody's car that you don't know, With that perspective, now you're either going to be, depending on if something happened to you or not, you will either see that as sound advice, or depending on where you've come from, that could be fearful, right? It's just all a matter of what you've experienced. This is what it is. We are molded and shaped. And I know science tells us 0 to 7, but 0 encompasses in utero as well. Remember that part. Marjorie says, I used to get anxious when people around me talk bad about how things are getting. And she says, now I change what I hear or just say in her world, and she defines something else. But that's exactly what you do. Because if you think about it, every time you turn around, the scripture even tells you you're going to hear about wars and rumors of war. People are talking about, oh my God, did you hear about this? Did you hear who broke up with this person? Did you hear about blah, blah, blah? Did you hear about, oh my, and then all of a sudden you're overwhelmed. And now you begin to act from that place of overwhelm. You've allowed the outside world to influence you when you are supposed to be the one to influence the outside world. Yes, take some, leave some. You are absolutely correct. Neville Goddard says, negative thoughts equal spending. There's no return on your investment, right? But positive thoughts, you are investing and you get dividends, you get a return. And she says, I'm practicing investing and not spending with my thoughts. Exactly. So to spend with your thoughts, you're just sitting there in that rocking chair. Well, Lord, if the Lord wills, hallelujah, I don't know how these things are going to go. You spending. But if you say, whoa, how do I want this to turn out? And you begin to see it in your mind's eye and you create it, now you're getting a return on your investment because you're being deliberate. It's what you want to experience. You're not being tossed to and fro by the waves in the ocean. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah, I know. I know, Chicky. Yes, Henrietta, I know, girl. You see, she talks to me. She's like, okay, I want to get down. Yes, I know you do. But every time you get down, you can't run around because that little leg, right? So you'll just sit here like a good girl. So, Delight, Lion Man, are there any questions on the fan base side? I thought about giving it a salacious topic, but I'm not here to stir anything up.
Yeah, I really loved how it was just mentioned about spending, using your time investing versus spending. So if you could say a bit more on that, just because I thought that was profound, and how does it connect to cause and effect, or as within, so without?
Excellent. So when you are just spending your thoughts, you're just there, you're not being deliberate, you don't have a focus, you're just all over the place. That takes a lot of actual physical energy. So you don't get anything back from it. You're not nurtured by it. It's actually just sapping your own strength when you just spend. You're not replenishing. Whereas if you are deliberate, because it's cause and effect, when you are deliberate and you say, okay, listen, what am I deliberately creating here in this situation? I'm creating this type of change. I'm looking for this type of career, this type of client, whatever it is. And you are deliberate and you focus on that. And then as you are focused upon that, an opportunity presents itself for you to take advantage of the thing you say you are creating. So not only did you invest in deliberate thoughts of creation, but now that deliberate thought brought you something to make you expand. It brought you something for you to take advantage of because it was an opportunity that you wanted to have. And so it brought it for you. So there's the return. And so now that you get that return, you're going to reinvest with your deliberate thinking. Your deliberate mental capacity is what you're going to be deliberate with to bring about another effect that will cause you to reinvest what you've done. Does that make more sense, Delight?
Yes, it does. Sorry about that.
Oh no,
I was pacing and listening and was away from my microphone.
That's okay. I've got a chicken in my arms, so we're even. But these are the things that a lot of people say, well, how can we build our communities? We build our communities because what we're trying to do is we're trying to, what's the word? We're trying to break the mirror. We're trying to change the community by force as opposed to by spirit. So how do you want your community to look? That's the question. How do you want it to look? Do you want it to be a place of mutual benefit where everybody helps each other? Do you want it to be a place that is safe? Start seeing it that way mentally. And you're going to notice something. I forget the study. Oh my goodness. But a couple of people, either 10 or 20 of them were meditating. They were just focused on just love in the community and the space. And do you know, in a month's time, that crime rate in that neighborhood drastically reduced itself? It just drastically reduced itself. How? Because they saw what they wanted the community to look like. And in order to change the exterior, the interior has to change, or else the outside will remain as the inside is. But you can't say that in every room that you go into, because then people say to you, yeah, but the white man. And I'm like, you see the perception? Now we've got a whole bunch of people on the planet walking around for some reason thinking that they're lesser than somebody else. So if you're lesser in your mind than somebody else, well, then somebody in your mind is greater than you. And if they are greater than you, they have to behave greater than you, and you will always be lesser. Not because they're greater than you, but because you think they are. So you see, the way to change is not by force. Each individual, we talk about the society, we talk about the village. Well, that's made up of who? Individuals. So the individual has to be strong mentally, meaning they have to be deliberate in their thoughts. So think about it. If you don't know that I'm thinking about things that are good and honest and pure and good report, if you don't know that I'm doing that, but you are also doing it, and the other person, they don't know we're doing it, but they're doing it. Do you know what happens to our surroundings? It changes. But what's happening on the other side? Remember, reversibility. If everybody in the community is saying, oh my God, it sucks, we're the bottom rung of society. I heard somebody say that yesterday. The black folks are the bottom rung of society. I heard that yesterday, and I was like, say what now? That's not how I was raised. I wasn't raised to think that I was lesser than anyone. So if the community is thinking that on mass, the whole community, you've got 1,000 people in the community and they're all thinking the same thing, go back to the Tower of Babylon. The Tower of Babylon isn't telling you that there were all of these people. Mind you, I won't go there, but what they're telling you psychologically is everybody has to be in agreement, or the majority of you have to be in agreement. And whatever you are in agreement about is what you will experience as a community. We're so quick to say crabs in a barrel, but why? Why can we not be mutually beneficial? But that starts from the inside of a person. That starts from the inside of a person. Right? Ooh, Marjorie, the cup and the cross. I'll add that to the list of lectures that we're going to read from Neville Goddard. Synovia says, I made a decision to choose life, and I am building up the courage to sacrifice my old life. Let's touch on that, because cause and effect. You want to bring about this new wine in your life. Yes? Well, you're going to have to throw out the familiar old wineskin. It is no longer strong enough to sustain that new wine. If you put new wine into the old wineskins, you're going to lose everything. You will lose the old wineskin, and you will lose the new wine. So perhaps a change in perspective. Don't look at it as a sacrifice. Don't look at it as a sacrifice. Why? Neville spoke about the man in the graveyard who was possessed by demons. And Jesus was like, well, do you want to be free? And the man was like, no. Let me keep them. Let me keep my demons. That's what we're so willing to do, because they're familiar. So we want to keep them because they make us feel safe. But in that safety, there's no growth happening. All the while, you want the growth. But you're holding on. You see, instead of looking at it as a sacrifice, look at it as, what am I gaining here? I'm gaining freedom. I'm gaining my freedom. See, if you change your perspective and you look at it and you go, oh, I am choosing freedom, I'm choosing life, then that tastes better than sacrifice. Now, look at this, because you mentioned sacrifice. Remember, Isaac, he was going to be sacrificed by his father. Memory serves me correctly. And as soon as he was going to bring that knife down, what happened? There was a goat caught in the thicket. Why? That story is telling us there is always a savior. And that savior, right? The moment you choose to go towards life, you've been saved. You don't have to sacrifice a single thing. You just have to accept your freedom that is being given to you so graciously and so freely. That's what you're actually doing. So when you accept your freedom, you will find that that bitter taste of, I gotta let it go, it goes away. Why? Because you're so excited, you don't even care anymore. You're like, be gone. Be gone, bondage. See? Synovia also says, I immediately check myself when I have negative behaviors about myself or others. I do not want to hold on to toxic behaviors. Now here's the beautiful thing, Synovia. The more you practice catching those negative thoughts and behaviors, there will come a time that you no longer think negatively. You will think positively first. That's what you're practicing to do. Think about it. You're practicing to have positive thoughts. You're practicing positive behaviors and positive affirmations, and reaffirming yourself positively is what you're doing. Oh, yes. Thank the Lord. It's not in my lap, but it is in my lap. Oh. I digress. But you know what I'm saying? Well, thank you for blessing me with your goodness this morning. Yes. You don't have to sacrifice and you don't have to struggle. That's the old way. Right? The old way is to struggle. But the law is telling you, dude, man, we don't have to struggle. We got this in the bag. But sometimes it's a little bit challenging to accept it, because we think that that's the only way to do it, and we're not proving ourselves if we don't somehow struggle and fight. Then we're not valid. Then in actuality, that's not the case. It's okay, sweetness. It's okay. Mommy knows. I still love you in all your glory. You know what I mean? Cover that up. Sorry. Sound Investments by Neville. Yes. Henrietta. But this is exactly it. I will add that one to the list as well. Sound Investments by Neville, that lecture. You see, because that's what I mean when I say today that we have been taught to behave in a particular way. And we are taught to do it not because our teacher, which is usually your mother, father, grandparents, whatever, preacher, not because they're mean and cruel, but because that's what they were taught. So because they're taught to do that, they teach us. And this is what makes forgiveness a whole lot easier. Why is that? Because there's that F word nobody wants to talk about, forgiveness. Well, the reason why we forgive, right? What helps us to forgive? Hey, sweetness. I know. What helps us is to forgive is the understanding that people only ever do what they are compelled to do because of what they believe. Right? Yes, I know, right? People do what they're compelled to do because of what they believe themselves to be. So they can't treat you any other way if that's how they see themselves already. So that's why you can forgive them, because They don't know any better. You know, the scripture, Father, forgive them because they know not what they do. You know why? Because there was one point in our lives too where we were doing things under compulsion and we didn't know what we were doing either. So now you see forgiveness goes both ways. Not just them, but you. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Hello, Lena, darling. It is good to see you here.
Hi. I'm enjoying this.
Hey. Well, if you have any questions, definitely jump right in here and share. It's not a one-woman show.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because we all have, you know, like something will be triggered and you'll have to think about it and you say, well, clarification, please. Let me go put her back in her crate now because I think she'll be all right. It's just that if she falls out, I don't want her to hurt herself. And so you say bye, everybody. I'll see you soon. Now she's all quiet. Come, sweetness. Okay, come. Yes, I know, sweetness. Come. One moment, please. That gives you a chance to formulate your questions. Yeah, I know, right? Uh-huh. Yeah, my good girl. Yes, you are my good little girl. Aw. Aw. Yeah, you have to go in there, though. Okay, sweetness. Okay. Right there like that. Right here like that. Okay? Love you. I'll see you in a minute. Alrighty. I am back. Henrietta Free. But this is the whole thing that I wanted to show you today by way of the law of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, but every effect has its cause, which means if you can create something one way, you can bring about the change in the reverse. For instance, Neville used the example of creating heat. You can use electricity to create heat, but you can use heat to create electricity. See, this is the forward momentum of the law at all times, right? Marjorie, what a great question. She says, is that because we have no free will? Listen, we have free will and then we don't. We have free will and we don't. Let me explain. You are free to choose. Oracle Treehouse, I love you too. Say hello to your mom. We have free will to choose. I will always refer to the garden. If you look out into your garden and you say, well, you know, I would love some sugar snap peas. What did you do? You made a choice to plant sugar snap peas. So what are you going to do? You're going to purchase the seeds and you're going to plant them. Do you have control over them growing now? Or do you just nurture them and they grow? So free will is for you to choose the direction. You remember the scriptures tell you, I put before you life and death. Choose life. Why? If you choose life, then life has to unfold for you. That's where your free will ends, with the choice that you make. The unfoldment of it is beyond you. Because you can't force the seed to grow. You can't force it to grow. It's going to grow regardless. So you're just there for the unfoldment of it. So once you decide or you choose what it is you are going to do, that's the extent of the will that you've just said. There you go. That was my intention, because will means intent. What do you intend to do? So you intend, you chose whatever your intention was, you chose it. But it has to unfold now, because you made it here. You made the decision mentally. You made the choice mentally. So as above, so below. So it is invisible in your mind, the choice that you've made. In order to make it visible, it has to go through a change. You don't have control of that change. That change happens because every cause has its effect and every effect is cause. That's why. So it's not that we don't have free will. We have free will to choose. But it is the unfolding of a thing, the bridge of incidents, Neville Goddard calls it. So the coincidences, the synchronicities, right? You don't have control over those. They happen because you made a choice. You gave your intention. That's why you are experiencing what you're experiencing, because of the free will intention that you chose. Does that make sense? Ew. Somebody's got to change clothes. Well, she is cute though. So then Neville's wife stole those items. She was under compulsion. But yes, she was under compulsion. Marjorie, here's Marjorie's question. Can someone do something like that to me? Yes and no. It is the same reason why the hypnotist, right, can't tell you to do something that you wouldn't normally do. If a thing is already within you, right? If a thing is already within you, for instance, let me put it this way. If you are arguing in your mind with some imaginary person, you are saying, I want to argue. That's what you've made the choice to argue, because you're arguing in your head. So, for instance, now, if you're having a crummy day and you're just regular Joe Blow on the street, and I'm arguing in my mind and I'm walking by you and I accidentally bump into you, accidentally now, aren't any accidents. I created an invisible argument. And because somebody else in the vicinity was cranky, they had to play the role I assigned them. That's what that means. Go ahead, Lena.
I was going to say, okay, I'm visualizing that, and that's so true. I'm like, wow, okay. That's good. I'm an overthinker, too. Like, how should I go about that? I overthink everything. I think I'm an anxious person. So I will analyze it. I will have my intention. I will do it. And then as I'm doing the thing, I overthink myself. And I'm anxious. I don't know that. Yeah. So that's what I had to say.
That is a brilliant question, Lena. Thank you for asking it. Okay. That's what we do naturally, because we've been conditioned to do it.
Right? So I'm not crazy.
You're not crazy, honey. You're not crazy. We have been conditioned to act like that. So the way to get past that, when you have decided what it is that you are choosing, right? Make the choice and be done with it. That's your job. Just make the choice. Because the way that choice unfolds, now here's where the anxiety and the worry come in. Well, I don't know how that's going to turn out. I don't know. Do I know the right people? Do I have the right training? Do I have this? Do I have that? You see where the overthinking comes in? That's what you're doing, because you're contradicting yourself. Here's what the law is telling you. The law says if you plant your intention and you nurture it, sunshine, a little bit of sprinkle of rain, no squirrels, no weeds. What does that mean? It means, is this really possible? Can I really do this? Yeah, but I heard. What are you doing? You're digging up the seed. You're digging it up. How can it take root if you dig it up? Well, the squirrels are going to come along and eat it. Which means you're going to leave that idea by the side and you go, you know what? Too hard. Move on. I'm not going to do it. That's where that worry comes from. So now, as I mentioned this morning in Morning Inspiration, faith sees. She doesn't have any eyes, but she sees, which means we walk by faith and not by sight. How? We walk by faith because when you choose and you say, this is who I am going to be, when you choose that part, that's it. Now, how does that make you feel to say, oh, well, I'm going to be this. This is who I want to be now. it's going to make you feel a particular way. At first, it may make you feel like, really? Oh, please. Girl, you've been trying to change for years. You ain't never going to change. That may come up because you know how it is. We criticize ourselves, we judge ourselves. But if you don't give in to that, and the way you don't give in, you don't fight it, you redirect yourself. I will give you an analogy. A baby has its toys, and you are in the living room with the baby and somebody else, and y'all are busy yakking away. And the baby is like, ooh, a light in the oven is on. Let me go see. So the baby starts crawling over to the oven because it wants to see what the light is all about. What are you going to do with that baby? You going to shake that baby? You going to beat the baby? No. Pick up the baby nice and gentle and put it in front of its toys. How many times do you have to do that? Until the baby stays in front of the toys. But you can't lose your temper with it either. Why not? Does the baby know, or is it learning? So you and I are learning. So be gracious with yourself so that when you say to yourself, okay, I've made the decision, here's my intention, keep your thoughts on there. And the way Neville explains it, he says, step 1, name your objective, which is your intention. Whatever that thing is you are creating, name it. Step 2, keep your attention upon it and the way it makes you feel. Because he tells you, don't put your focus on the obstacles or the excuses that you could make as to why it can't happen. No, don't do that. He says, keep your attention upon the thing you've just said you're going to create. And what that will do to your body, it makes your body feel, it's going to feel either yay, or it's going to be like, ooh, really? Can we? Well, I don't know. Can we do it? And so the time that it takes for you to get that idea or that intention solidified in your mind so that when you think about it, that your body says, yes, we've done it, right? Because it confirms it. Now that's natural to you. It's second nature to you. That's the distance from invisible to visible. Do you hear me? That's the distance from getting the thing that is invisible in your mind, because you already, as soon as you've seen it, you have it. You do. Because that's where it goes from an architect. He only sees the thing in his mind and he draws it out. So it takes him, he's got to sketch it out on paper and do all those things to it, get the crew together, blah, 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 all of those things to make it visible so that you can put the key in the door and go, oh my God, look into my new house. That's what you can do. But it has to go from his mind through his body. But if he draws that out and he goes, oh God, I can't do this. This is too big of a project. And he just crumples it up and tosses it. Because if you want to say that thing, that house isn't real, then in actuality, it is. It is only real in your mental faculties. Because if it's not real there, it cannot be given birth to. As within, so without. As above, so below. Does that make sense, Lena?
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
No worries. So keep the focus. Keep the focus on, okay, I'm building this. There's a level of excitement. You know, when you say to your children, we're going to Disneyland, and you're saying T minus 21 days, T minus 20 days, and they're all excited and giddy. Are they saying, oh my God, is there going to be a storm? Oh my God, are we not going to get our tickets? Like, no. All they can think about is what ride are they're how much are they going to eat till they puke? That's all they can think about. So that's where your time and effort and energy goes to, is in the building of this thing you are creating instead of the contradiction of it. I trust that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Good. Are there any more questions? Marjorie, more to expand on that. When you ask the question, can someone do something like that to me? Listen, we are always doing it. Oh, you think you gave to somebody out of the goodness of your heart? Sorry, I have to laugh at that. No, you gave it because you were compelled to give it. Something moved you to give it. You see? This is what I'm trying to tell you. So we can't look at the good and the bad. You have to look at where are you? And you'll see where you are by your actions. So if you're walking down the street and all of a sudden somebody pops into your head and you call them and say, hey girl, I was thinking about you. Let's do tea. And you go for tea. And she says, listen, I was thinking about you too. I don't know what you're going through, but I heard, because you know how people Christians say it, the Lord told me to give you this little offering, to give you this gift. You think they gave the gift out of the goodness of their heart? No, they gave it from the compulsion. Because something within you. So it doesn't matter what it is. This is why the only thing you should be concerned of is, are you choosing life? Because if you're choosing life, you're going to have to live out life with your experiences, one person at a time as you go through the day. And you're going to act according to what you chose. So if you choose violence, shoot, you know. So I trust that other part makes sense, Marjorie, because it's not that, oh no, can somebody do that to me? It is always being done to each and every one of us. Always. It is always being done to each and every one of us. It just only matters which choice you made. That's why I tell you free will ends after you make the choice. Now things unfold from the choice that you've made. So what role are you going to play? That depends on you. So if you choose the role that brings life, then you can predict the kinds of experiences you're going to have. I'm just saying, this is just the way the law is. Right? So let's see. Questions? If we have more questions, yay, go ahead and ask. If we don't, that's okay, because, you know, party is such sweet sorrow. I don't want to take up your time so much. I just want us to recognize what we are capable of. Something that came to me the other day, because I talk to myself a lot. How can you tell? Anyway, something that came to mind. I got a call. And the question was, wait, did I make this happen? And I was like, and I thought the first time I heard the question, I thought to myself, how do I answer this question? Do I answer it the way I want to answer it, or do I answer it the nice way? Lord, I hope you're not watching. I'm like, the first thought that went through my head was, what do you mean? Did I cause this to happen? You were the one who asked for what you wanted. You were the one who said, this is what I'm creating. And when it came up, you were like, nah, that was too natural. That was too easy. You see what we do? We say, I'm creating this thing. And when we encounter the thing that we've created, we look at it and we say, did I do that? That's what we say. And I'm like, but yes, you did. You did. Take responsibility for that. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's not a judgment game. It's a, did you do it? Because now you're reaping the benefits of what you said you wanted. Oh, but if I celebrate, yeah, because always something, the other shoe will drop. If you have that thought that if I celebrate, the other shoe will drop, what do you think is going to happen? And when the other shoe drops, we're going to say, oh my God, why did that happen to me? So what occurred to me was, Angela, you're creating something here. Why then would you put an obstacle in your way? Allow me to do what I'm doing. I already know what you said you wanted. It is unfolding for you. Let it happen. And I was like, yes, please. As you wish. Right? And that was the comprehension that came to me, that we have been taught to struggle so much and to fight and scrape so hard that if something easy happens to us, we're all like, that was too easy. But that can't possibly be real. And then what happens? We continue in our struggle. Take some, leave some. After all of the reading and listening and believing and now the knowing, one day I honestly felt reborn, like a baptism, more excited about the laws than the original desire that brought me to the laws. Hallelujah. That is a beautiful natural progression, my beautiful take some, leave some. We can't escape it. The moment you touch the law with any kind of awareness, you say, oh, what's that? What's cause and effect? It says, let me show you. We may come for many reasons, whether we want a spouse, we want money, we want a car, we want a house, we want a dog, we want a chicken. It doesn't matter what we want. When you come to the law, listen, that's the biggest investment you've ever made. Oh, and now look at the return you're going to get. The return that you get is peace of mind to know that when you say, I am that, I am. What more do you need to do? This is why Neville Goddard can tell you, you don't need to lift a finger to make it so. You can't lift a finger because as the outer man, you are limited. But the inner man, the rebirth, the new you, Synovia, if you're still here, the new you, right? The new you says, let me roll up my sleeves. I got this piece of cake. And it does what it's going to do. But all we got to do is move, get out the way. That's all we have to do. And we get out of the way when we allow the law to do what it has been doing before time immemorial. The law has always been working. You think it takes a break and it says, well, Angela, you're special. Helmet. So I got to be patient with you. The law doesn't say that. The law says, oh, you made a choice? Good. And it takes off with your choice. So today, my beautiful friends, and you see, Marjorie, listen to what Marjorie says. I don't even have desires for things anymore. Do you know why? Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. I hope I'm saying it right. It's been a while. But that's the point. You don't want for anything because you can create it. You're not desperate for anything because you can create it. You're not longing and pining and wasting away for anything or anyone because you can create it. That's what the law does for you. That's why it sets you free on a daily basis. So if we want to sit here and say, well, we got to build our communities, we got to heal our communities. How are you going to heal the community when you can't even look in the mirror and acknowledge the fact that you are somebody great? How are you going to speak greatness when you have not even touched the greatness within yourself to uncover it? As within, so without. Oh, but they're going to laugh at me. They're going to think I'm crazy talking about the law. Somebody said to me the other day, Angela, how did we get on the law? I called you to have a conversation and we're on the law. And I'm like, I don't know. We just here. We just here. This is what it is. It consumes you. So you're reborn. Take some, leave some. You are reborn. You are transformed by the renewing of your mind. You're no longer the same old. You can sit here and look at your community and go, I know exactly what we need. And you envision it in your mind. And all of a sudden, because we like coincidences, right? And synchronicities. We love those. Somebody says, hey, I got all of this money. I see y'all need a new rec center in your community. How about some trees while we're at it? Next thing you know, your community is getting a facelift. And all you did was sit there and say, oh, I would love for my community to be prosperous. Did you lift a finger? Nah, but you got your mind right. Synovia, as a child, I always heard that we have to work twice as hard. I knew what they meant, but I always said to myself, I don't think so. I agree with you right there. You see, we are constantly told over and over again as a people, oh, you're less, oh, you're this, or you're that. No. You see, what does Neville say? An assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Keep telling that child that they're a degenerate. Keep telling that child they're no good. And then that child calls you from jail and says, Mother, I need you to bail me out. Who put them there? Your words do not return void. You want your child to be fantastic and great, well, then plant seeds of fantasticness and greatness in them. So that when they get up and they go outside, because you know how big the world is, right? When they get up and they go outside and somebody goes, loser, they can be confident within themselves and say, I know where that's coming from. And they don't even engage. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the power that we have. But we allow these narratives to take hold of our minds. And you hear, black men ain't no good. Black women are loud and masculine. Single mothers are the demise of society. Garbage. Why would you entertain such things? I know a man who was raised by his grandmother. I know that man well. And he did not allow the fact that his father abandoned them. You know what he did? Listen, I have no idea how he did it. I have no idea what kind of fortitude he had. But every time he spoke to me and he said, listen, I saw what I did not like. And he said he made a promise to God. He was 8 when he made that promise. He says, you know, Lord, if I become a man and you bless me with a wife, I won't drink. I won't do any drugs. I won't beat my wife or my kids like I've seen people do, but I will work hard and make sure they have the best. He made that vow at the age of 8 years old. And I wonder what he was compelled to do for the rest of his life. Be a good man in spite of what he saw. And let me tell you something. I knew he grew up in poverty. That's my granddaddy. I knew he grew up in poverty because his whoever's were sharecroppers before him on that tiny island of Barbados. But he put his hand to the plow, you understand. And the way they had to make their living back then, cut sugarcane or dig sugarcane holes and plant the sugarcane or pick cotton. That was his work. And he got so good at it. And he was so reliable that when it came time for an opportunity to travel overseas, he was the one selected to go. He was. Not because he was anything great, I would suppose, but he was reliable. They knew that he was always going to be there on time for work, and he always got all his work done, and he had to go back and help everybody else. They knew that's what he was like. So when that happened, he got the opportunity to go to New York, work on the farm there, make American money, and come back and build his house. Trust me, I helped build that house. I helped build it. I knew what it took. I also knew what it took to fall through the floor from termites eating the wooden floor. That's why he built a wall. So because of the vow he made, he was compelled to fulfill it. This is why you don't vow lightly. Scripture tells you don't vow lightly because you will be held to account. So it has to be what you want to do. This is all it is. You're going to be held to that. So what do you want to hold yourself to? Sorrow and misery. So how do you do it? And I'll land here. If you have any questions, drop it in the chat. If you got any questions on fan base, Frederick, Lucky, Delight, let me know. But here's the process on how we change our lives. Step 1, you can clearly see what you don't want. So what do you want instead? That is step 1. Name what it is you want to experience instead of what you are currently dealing with. Step 2, put your attention solely on that thing. And you can look for all of the ways that it would make your life better if you had it. Why? Because we always jump to the worst case scenario already, don't we? So why not jump to the best case scenario? That is step 2. Go to the best case scenario. Well, if I do this and this and this, oh, that's going to happen. Oh, and your body starts to feel real good. So step 3 is what? Continue to foster those feelings of, I got this in the bag. Why do you have it? Listen, step 1, 2, and 3 are not hope. Step 1, 2, and 3 are not wishes. Step 1 is, I want something better for my life. So name what better is. Don't just say you want something better. What does that mean? Name it. Oh, but if I do that, they're gonna judge me. If I have that house on the hill, they're gonna judge me. Are they living with you now? Well, then they don't have it to judge you. Ignore them. What are all the best case scenarios? Entertain those. And who's the first person you gonna tell? When this thing happens, who you gonna call? Who's the first person? But begin to mentally rehearse that conversation, because you're always talking to yourself in your head anyway. So that's where you put your attention. Girl, you will never believe what happened. I did this. Ooh, girl, I did that. And that job, I got the promotion. Start telling the story. Start telling it mentally, because you are already replaying one mentally, but it's not the one you want. So swap it out, or you're going to keep getting the same one you're complaining about. And so step 3 is, oh, that feels good to my body. And when that now becomes natural to you, you're going to ring, ring. Oh my God, girl, I was thinking about you. I heard, come on down. Or you get an email. Oh, I received your resume months ago, but I was delayed in responding. And I trust that you're still looking for a job. And they call you and they offer you the job, not just with a little bit of pay, but the big pay you've been looking for, the benefits, everything. Travel allowance, shoot, even a company vehicle. Oh, but it looks like it's a coincidence. Huh? It looks like it's a coincidence, but it's not. Whatever it is you entertain mentally is what you will experience physically. So step 1, know what you want. Stop complaining about what you don't want. Focus all of your attention on what you are building. Step 2, don't deviate from that. And step 3, it will begin to feel good. So step 2, rehearse all of those best case scenarios. And you will begin to see that things will unfold for you. Period. It's not woo-woo, it's not magic. You are already doing it. You're already doing it. So, are there any questions before we go? Because I don't want to keep y'all. It's been an hour and 15 minutes already. Yikes. You know how I get fired up with these things. Frederick, that was my grandfather's name. And there's a Frederick here in the basement. Hello, Lucky and Frederick. It's good to see you all. Hey, Frederick.
Hey, what calling?
Say that again, sorry?
I'm supposed to not call you. What's your name?
My name is Angela.
Okay, Angela. Yeah, I was just wanted to say something real quick. Thank you for this information that you're giving out. It's very helpful, and I can resonate a lot with it.
You are most welcome. And the best part of the information is the application of the information, because I always look forward to hearing about your escapades and all of the things that have unfolded for you, because it's brilliant. Because then you begin to see your own confidence, your own value, and you see it for yourself, because it's always been there. And so that's why I share what I share on a daily basis. So that's how we can change our communities. We don't have to remain stuck. Apply the law and change. Because if you change you, that has a ripple effect on the people closest to you. Yes, it always does. Just like if it's the opposite way, you know, and they do something that's not so good, it has a ripple effect on the people closest, right? So that's why the scripture always tells us whatever is good, whatever is true, whatever is honest, of good report, think on these things, because as a man thinketh, therefore he is. This is law. And I love you. And I will see you tonight at 10:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will read The Seven Eyes of God, the Neville Goddard lecture. I'll see you tonight. Much love to you all. Much, much love. Take some, leave some. Synovia, Marjorie, Oracle Treehouse. It's real good to see you all here today. It really is. Yes. All right, y'all. Toodles.